The East Bay Township Board of Trustees, they are still inside discussing. So as of right now, no decision has been made. Opening day in Detroit is an event. It's Easter, New Year's, and Christmas all rolled into one unique afternoon. But they did say his arrest is not directly related to the disappearance of Bryn Bills. Right now, we are looking at about 7 inches of snow, but as you can tell just by looking at my hat, Mother Nature is not done yet. We are 1 month away from the November election, but already more than 150,000 Michigan voters have cast their ballots. And just a few minutes ago, Michigan State Police tweeted that they're responding to a barricaded homicide suspect in the same area. There's a certain law that you have to follow when it comes to removing snow from your property, and if you don't follow it, it could cost you. For example, it's against the law to shovel snow into a large pile at the end of your driveway because it could do something like this. It's also the first time in our state's history the 2 women share the debate stage. While the pandemic has heavily impacted the tourism industry, different businesses around Traverse City, like hotels and restaurants, had to learn to adapt in order to overcome the different challenges they face. There's already been quite a few people dropping off their ballots today. And something that's interesting is if you look behind me, they actually have a camera that's pointed right at the drop box. The National Archives tells Congress that some records from the Trump administration are still missing. I just paid about $60 for 14 gallons of gas. But picture this. Say I drive a semi-truck with 2 150-gallon tanks of gas, which is pretty typical. Well, that would cost me nearly $1,500.
It's just really sad that it had to come to this. Her death was absolutely preventable and unnecessary.
Teresa Wolf lives across the street from accused murderer Jeffrey Stratton. She believes on the day of the crime, he shouldn't have been here. He should have been behind bars.
I first met Jeffrey Stratton probably the first week that we moved here, which was summer of 2020.
But she knew early on something didn't seem right.
A part of me wants to believe, that there's good in just everybody. But there was just always an underlying feeling that, keep my eyes open.
Jeffrey Stratton is charged with open murder in the death of 72-year-old Linda Henry at her home on Cinder Road. But this wasn't his first appearance in 85th District Court. According to court records, Stratton has a number of charges against him dating back to 2020, including felony assault, fleeing and eluding, and a more recent criminal sexual conduct. Wolf says last Monday, 4 days before Linda's murder, Stratton showed up at her house.
I won't share the details of exactly what went on, but he engaged in criminal sexual conduct with my 14-year-old daughter.
Wolf says she called Michigan State Police. Stratton was arrested on an outstanding warrant and released the next day.
And that's when the fear set in.
She filed a personal protection order against Stratton, but claims he showed up on her property around 12:30 Friday morning trying to get inside.
At which point I frantically called 911 and let them know that he was violating the conditions, the no contact order on his bond.
But Stratton wasn't arrested. The PPO she filed for wasn't in effect yet.
I knew at that moment no one was going to be responsible for mine and my daughter's safety but me.
It was later that day that Stratton allegedly killed Linda.
Had that original personal protection order gone through, it would not have been left up to discretion of the officers whether or not to pick him up on that bond violation. They would have had to pick him up. And my neighbor lady would still be alive.
In Benzie County, Miya Ingle, Up North Live News. And AAA says looking away from the road for just 2 seconds doubles the risk of a crash. And just 5 seconds of reading a text or an email is like driving the length of a football field with a blindfold on. These are just a few of the reasons why state representatives are pushing for these changes.
It will help prevent drivers from becoming another statistic.
House representatives say this package of bills will modernize Michigan's distracted driving laws.
Current Michigan law bans texting while driving, which narrowly means the act of typing a text message on your cell phone. That means a driver can still stream Netflix, shop on Amazon, record a TikTok, or take a Zoom call on camera while driving and be compliant with Michigan law, which, if we're being honest, makes absolutely no sense to me.
The 3 bills would update the law to ban any use of a handheld mobile device while driving unless it's hands-free.
Distracted driving, it remains a growing traffic safety problem here in Michigan. And our research shows that education and legislation are key factors in changing driving behavior.
While the bills passed in the House with wide bipartisan support, one Republican representative spoke against the bills, referring to them as
the big hand of government. Unfortunately, in our country, we have a love affair with safety. Liberty has an element of risk. You can't have both. So are we conditioning society to think government can fix this by removing liberty?
Representative Riley's comments led to Representative Roger Houck standing up to share the story of how his mother-in-law died. The driver was texting when they crashed into her.
I get so sick and tired about people talking about liberty, but who's talking about my mother-in-law's liberty? Her liberties were taken away, and they will never come back.
The bills now head to the Senate. If they pass in Senate, the legislation would need to be signed by Governor Whitmer to become law. The bills passed, penalties for distracted driving would increase. The first offense would cost you $100. Any offense after that would be $250, which is a $50 increase. And if you're involved in a crash, those fines are doubled. Live in Leelanau County, Miya Ingle, Up North Live News.
It's something I can worship for the rest of my life, really. It's the highlight of my later years.
More than 80 veterans, more than 80 different stories.
I served in World War II.
I was in Korea in the Marine Corps.
I was trained as a tanker, then sent to Germany.
Ended up with Special Forces and was sent to Vietnam.
Veterans coming together to share stories and share the experience of visiting the different memorials from their wars.
Just brought back memories and stuff.
For some, they had never seen these tributes before.
It was the first time to D.C.
For others,
Maybe 15 years ago I went, yeah.
and similar to their experiences serving our country, each veteran had a different experience visiting the memorials.
Vietnam Wall was the hardest.
World War II Memorial is awesome. It really tells a big story. It's tough to think back on the days when those things happened, but you have to do it.
It's just reliving a lot of history and meeting some new people and realizing how much people appreciated our effort.
And every stop of the trip, people made sure to thank these veterans for their service.
Oh my goodness. We just introduced us to all these kids right here. I got hugs from half of them.
Brought tears to my eyes.
We felt like we were some kind of dignitaries. I shook more hands than I'd ever. It was unreal. Unreal.
And after these veterans flew back to Michigan and arrived at the airport, they were once again greeted with dozens of people welcoming them home. Something that not all veterans experienced when they returned from war.
It was not. No. When I landed at Oakland, it wasn't nice. But today was 1,000% the other way. It was. Won't forget this.
And although these veterans had their own unique experiences on the trip, they all agreed on one thing. They will never forget this.
Everybody greets us like we're heroes. Makes me proud. So I guess this is what we served for.
In Washington, D.C., Miya Ingle, Up North Live News.